My name is Olette, and I'm 29 years old. The smell of roasted turkey still makes my jaw tighten, even now. Every time it drifts through the air, crispy skin, sage, butter. That heavy holiday warmth, it pulls me straight back to that Thanksgiving night, when everything I had built was publicly stripped away in front of the people who were supposed to love me most. It wasn't just a family dinner. It was the moment my brother stood up at the long oak table in my parents' dining room and announced, with all the practiced confidence of someone who'd rehearsed the speech in front of a mirror, that our parents had secretly given him the company I had built from nothing, and that I was getting nothing. We were all gathered around that same table where, for years, I had balanced stacks of invoices, balanced laptops precariously on the edge while everyone else watched football on the big screen. In the living room, the same table where I'd sat late into the night after everyone went to bed, spreadsheets glowing on my screen, trying to make payroll when cash flow was negative and the only thing keeping me going was stubborn, bone-deep hope. Candles flickered down the center runner that night, throwing soft shadows across linen napkins and polished silverware. And for a fleeting second I remember thinking how beautiful it all looked, like a perfect holiday postcard. But beauty can hide rot, and I already felt the first cold prickle of dread the moment I walked in and saw my brother's tailored suit, his lifted chin, the way he carried himself like the room had always belonged to him. Dinner started the way it always did. Polite small talk, clinking glasses of red wine, relatives asking surface-level questions about work and weather. My parents smiled too brightly, avoiding my eyes a little too carefully. My brother sat across from me, relaxed, almost smug, swirling his wine like he was waiting for his cue. Then he cleared his throat loud enough, deliberate enough that every side conversation died instantly. Forks hovered mid-air. Heads turned. The room gave him the stage he clearly wanted. "Before we eat," he said, raising his glass like he was toasting a victory, "I just want to thank Mom and Dad for believing in me and for officially handing me the company." A beat of silence. Then he turned his smile on me, sharp, deliberate, cutting. "Arlette won't be involved anymore." The words landed like a physical blow. Heat rushed behind my eyes, not from surprise. Betrayal has its own smell, metallic and familiar, like blood in your mouth, but from the sheer surgical cruelty of the timing. He had chosen Thanksgiving, the one day of the year when family is supposed to mean something unbreakable, to humiliate me in front of aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone who had ever congratulated me on the family business. My parents didn't look at me. Not once. My mother dabbed her lips with her napkin as if wiping away a crumb. My father studied the grain of the oak table like it held the answer to his guilt. They had known. They had planned this. And they had let him deliver the verdict. I felt every memory flash through me in that moment. The borrowed desk in a drafty studio apartment when I was 23. Signing my first lease with trembling hands because the rent was more than I had in the bank. The nights powered by instant coffee and sheer refusal to fail. The first client I landed by promising a turnaround. I barely knew how to deliver, shaking hands under the conference table so no one would see. The contracts I negotiated alone. The payroll weeks when I paid my team before I paid myself because I couldn't bear to let them down. All of it, the sweat, the fear, the quiet pride reduced in one sentence to nothing. My brother kept talking, embellishing the story like a salesman closing a deal. Our parents wanted stability. They wanted a real leader. They wanted someone who could take it to the next level. Each phrase was another small cut, designed to make me look small, emotional, unfit. Forks still hovered. Relatives held their breath. My aunt's eyes flicked toward me with something like pity. My cousin coughed awkwardly. The silence begged me to play my part, to shrink, to cry, to swallow it for the sake of family harmony. Instead, I lifted my wine glass slowly, let the cool room rest against my lips, took a long, deliberate sip. The taste was sharp, grounding. And in that pause, I felt the courage I'd been holding for years rise up like a tide. Because betrayal doesn't just hurt, it clarifies. I set the glass down carefully, looked straight at my father, and said the words that changed the trajectory of the entire night. "Should I tell them now, or do you want to?" The question landed like a drop plate, shattering the careful narrative my brother had been spinning. For the first time that evening, my father actually looked at me. His eyes held the raw panic of a man who suddenly realized a locked drawer had been rattled, and the contents were about to spill. He stammered something vague about timing, about family, about gratitude. But the gravity in the room had already shifted. It recalibrated toward me. Years of being the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who never made waves, peeled away like old paint. I remember the emails I'd saved, the ones where my parents pushed me to keep it informal, to trust family over paperwork. The clauses I'd added late at night because I trusted paper more than promises. The way my brother's name was mysteriously absent from every important document when it mattered, and mysteriously appeared when it didn't. Their entire plan had relied on one thing above all: my silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Calm can be louder than shouting when it's backed by truth. I let the pause stretch until even the turkey seemed to cool on the platters. Then I asked again, gently, almost kindly, "Should I tell them now or do you want to?" My brother's smile wavered for the first time. The room leaned in. In that held breath, I felt something unfamiliar bloom inside me. Control. Real control. Because the truth, once invited in, has a way of walking through the door without asking permission. The room stayed frozen after my question. My dad opened his mouth, closed it, tried to laugh it off, but the laugh cracked and died. My brother shifted his weight like a man realizing the floor beneath him was no longer solid. I set my glass down carefully and said there were things everyone at this table deserved to hear. Because this wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore. It was about truth. I explained calmly, factually, how the company had never truly been a family project the way they like to tell the story. I had started it alone at 23 with a small loan I repaid myself, every cent. Every early contract listed me as founder and sole owner. My parents had only come in later, offering advice that slowly turned into pressure, then demands. My brother's sudden promotion had happened behind my back, while I was negotiating our biggest expansion deal, weeks of sleepless nights that he never even asked about. I watched faces change as details replaced assumptions. Relatives leaned forward, asking questions my brother couldn't answer. My mother tried to interrupt. "This isn't the place, Olette. Thanksgiving is about togetherness." I pointed out, still steady, that they had chosen this place and this moment when they announced I was getting nothing. "Togetherness built on lies," I said, "is just a prettier word for control." My brother snapped that I was exaggerating, that the company needed a stronger presence, that he was only stepping up. That's when I reached into my bag and slid the folder I'd brought and opened. Until that exact second, across the table toward my father. "You can explain the signatures yourself," I said quietly, "or I can." The folder contained copies of incorporation papers, equity agreements, time-stamped emails acknowledging my sole ownership. As my dad flipped through them, his shoulders sagged. The weight of proof bent him forward. My brother's confidence drained into right anger. Someone gasped when they saw my brother had been named interim CEO without any legal authority. Another relative murmured that this looked bad, very bad. I didn't relish their discomfort, but I also didn't soften the truth. I told them I had discovered the attempted transfer weeks earlier. I had already consulted counsel. I had waited until Thanksgiving only because I hoped against hope they would choose honesty before spectacle. But since they hadn't, I was done protecting their feelings at the cost of my future. The argument erupted, then voices overlapping, accusations flying. My brother insisted he'd been promised everything since childhood. My parents pleaded they were just trying to keep peace. I repeated again and again that peace without fairness is just enforced silence. Eventually my uncle stood up and told everyone to stop. He reminded them that facts matter more than pride or tradition. In that pause, my father finally admitted what he tried so hard to hide. The company was legally mine. Any attempt to give it away would fail in court. They had hoped public pressure, family shame, would make me comply. Hearing it out loud felt like a door closing behind me, final, heavy, but freeing. I stood up. I thanked everyone for listening. I said the rest would be handled through lawyers, not leftovers. Then I walked out into the cold night with my coat half buttoned, heart racing but spine straight. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally set down a burden I didn't even know I'd been carrying alone. The weeks that followed were messy. Angry messages, forced apologies that rang hollow, eventually silence. My brother lost the illusion of inheritance he'd never truly earned. My parents lost the leverage they'd relied on for control. And I gained something far more valuable than any apology: clarity. The company stabilized under leadership chosen for competence, not blood. I kept building stronger, smarter, on my own terms. When people ask me now if I regret speaking up at that table, I think back to the candles flickering, the turkey cooling. The way my voice didn't shake when I asked, should I tell them now or do you want to? And I smile. Because that single question changed everything. Not just for me, but for anyone who's ever been pushed aside, underestimated, told they were getting nothing after giving everything. If this story hits something deep inside you, if you've ever carried a burden in silence, for the sake of peace, if you've ever been erased from your own story, then stay here. Subscribe now. More real, powerful stories are coming, stories about standing up, reclaiming your worth, and watching the truth finally take the seat it deserves at the table. Because sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one that ends up being heard the loudest.